going to be showing you how to use my Love Birds mould. With all of our moulds we use our own sugar paste, carbonated sugar paste. If you don't have our sugar paste, then you can just either use modelling paste or firm your own up using a bit of Tylo powder. For the Love Birds mould, you're going to need 21 grams for the larger bird here and 19 grams for the smaller bird. And with all our moulds, we dust them with corn flour first. This stops your paste from sticking. You just tap out any excess, and then you just want to start yourself off with a smooth ball. You're going to place that in and just gently work your way around the bird. Use your fingers to stroke it up into his head, like that. You want to keep it nice and flat on the back. And then if you gently stroke up into his beak, like that. Make sure it's not too thin, otherwise it might tear. Again, work your way down into his tail, like that. Pinch and press into his feet, and pinch and press into his other one. And then finally, just work your way around, make sure nothing's over the edges, and that you're happy that you've pressed nice and hard so that you pick up all the detail. Like that, so he's ready to come out now. So I'm just going to place my thumb here by the tab, turn it over, and out he comes. Like that. Now I'll do the smaller bird. The smaller bird is 19 grams of paste. And it's just the same method, so roll yourself a smooth ball, place it in, make sure you press in nice and firmly. Use your fingers to stroke up into the head and beak. Work your way down into his tail, like that. Make sure nothing's hanging over the edges. And again, just pinch and stroke into his feet. Then you can use your fingers to just manoeuvre any bits that are hanging over the edges back into the middle. So again, once you're happy, just turn it over. Now you've got your two love birds. We're now going to start painting them. I do their beaks and their feet in the same colour, which is Rainbow Dust's Plain and Simple Mustard. And for any painting I'm going to do, I'm going to be using isopropyl alcohol. This, you put in the lid of your colours and it'll change back into a powder after about 20 seconds. This is why we use the alcohol instead of water, because if you used water then it would stay wet and then your characters and any painting you did on your cakes would stay wet. So just with a small brush, we're just going to paint the feet. And their beaks. Like that. Next, we're going to paint their eyes. Now, their eyes are all done in black, and then later we add a little white highlight to make them more realistic. So you're just going to paint the inside of their eyes like that. And then with a little dot of white, you can give them a highlight. Now that's all the painting done. The rest of the colouring is all done through dusting. So with your dust colours, for the Love Birds, they can be decorated in many different ways. They're great for Christmas, as you can paint them as robins, and wedding cakes. They're ideal for making vintage birdcage wedding cakes, so you can do them in any colour to fit in with the theme of the wedding. I like to select 3 colours, so today I'm going to paint them blue, and what I do is I select a slightly darker blue, a medium, and then I've got this nice pale mint colour with a bit of a shimmer to finish off later. So I start with my darkest colour, so you're just going to take a bit out of your pot, get rid of any excess onto your kitchen towel, and then with the larger bird what I do is I start by going around the outside of his wing, like that, so you've got a nice blue line. Then he's got nice little creases that you can see in his tail, so I just dust them in the darker colour as well, like that. And then any creases you can see on his wings, just fill those in gently. This just creates a nice bit of shadowing and detail on your birds and makes them look really realistic. And then I'm just going over the crease around his neck, slightly onto the top of his wing, like that. And then finally I want to do a nice streak around the back of his head all the way up the top until it meets his beak. Like that. And if you want, you can also dust the lower part of his belly. Like that. So that's what you've got to start with on the larger bird. For the slightly smaller one, again, do the streak over the top of its head, right from the beak all the way down the back. Like that. Around the front crease of his wing, like that, and around the back of his wing and the creases of his tail. Now, the smaller bird has got a nice little feathered pattern on his wing, so you don't have to cover all of them. I just dab them randomly with a bit of the darker colour, like that. And then finally, give him a bit of colour on his chest. So that's your darker colour done. Now we're going to go on to the middle medium colour. And with this one, you're basically just going to fill most of the areas that you haven't already. So any bits of the wing, tail, any bits of his tail that you haven't covered, work your way onto his wing. And then I'm going to get a slightly larger dusting brush to cover the larger areas. So just roughly brush over the remaining area of his wing, like that. The top half of his chest. And carefully work your way around his face. Be careful not to touch the eye, otherwise you'll spread the black. Like that. Same on the smaller bird. Just dust over its wing, and that blends in your darker colour nicely. The top half of the chest, the rest of the tail, and the face. Like that. And then to finish them off, we're going to use your palest colour, and it's nice to give it a bit of a shimmer. This really makes them stand out and creates nice highlights. And you're just going to brush this all over the body, and this blends all of your shadowing that you've created with your other colours. Like that, and again just be careful around his face so you don't get his eye. Another idea that's nice is, because they're lovebirds, I like to think as the larger one being the male and the smaller one being the female. So you can either do them in matching colours like I've done, or it's nice to do the male slightly darker and the female in a slightly lighter colour that complements. So there you go.